Welcome to Heritage Connections, where conversations turn into real opportunities. I'm Caroline Torres, and today's guest is going to be talking about something that is affecting many people in our community. Today, we're joined by Ayensa Milan, an immigration expert attorney helping families and individuals navigate one of the most important and sometimes overwhelming processes in their lives. Welcome to Heritage Connections.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you for having me here. This is really a pleasure. And like you said, it is an overwhelming process. And really, it's important and it can be life-changing. So thank you for the opportunity to speak up.
Thank you for saying yes. This is a very trending subject nowadays. And I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. So we're here to bring truth to the processes and also the importance of having professionals like yourself guide them through the process. So thank you so much. But let me ask you a question. Let's start here.
All right.
What would you say is one thing that people are getting completely wrong about the immigration right now?
Well, I think there is a lot of fear in the community, and obviously rightfully so, because of everything that we see that's going on with this administration. But I think the biggest mistake that most people make is not getting the right advice, not going to the right professional that has the experience, that knows the process, that knows the system, that not only can evaluate their case, but also give them options, or perhaps tell them, hey, there's nothing that we can do, but this is how you can protect yourself. I think the last thing that we should do is to simply feel hopeless and do nothing, or simply listen to what we hear on social media or on TikTok, especially when we know there's so much misinformation out there.
So I know, since you're navigating these processes every single day, what would you say is one of the biggest changes in the system that has created that misconception about the immigration?
Well, obviously what we hear from the administration, right? What we hear sometimes from the news, what we hear on social media. But I think one of the biggest changes that we have seen, which is in fact true, is this administration's position to hold most people, especially if you enter this country unlawfully, to hold them without a bond. And now we're seeing people being detained and placed in removal proceedings without the opportunity to be released on bond, to be able to actually fight their cases. But again, it's something that has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. What are the circumstances of the case? And look at what the options of that person actually are.
So what are people doing that actually is hurting their cases right now? And I know because some people don't show up to court when they have, the immigration appointments. Is it something that you will say is hurting them? Walk us through some of the things that that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing.
Well, obviously this is a response to fear, right? People have, they're legitimized in being fearful with what they're hearing and what we've been actually seeing. But yes, not showing up to court, not showing up to an appointment can not only result in your removal in absentia, in your inability to later fix your status or fight your case, but even in an interview with immigration officials, not with the judge, but you started a process, you didn't show up, not only is that case going to get denied, now you're going to automatically be placed in removal proceedings. Another mistake that I've been seeing with people is that sometimes, hey, I'm not going to the right expert because I want to save some money. This is an immigration process, so anyone can fill out my forms. They're absolutely right. Anyone can fill out a form. You can fill out your own immigration form, but you do not understand what implications this can have, because how you answer a question, what you provide, what you say to that immigration official can make the difference between an application that's approved and an application that's denied. And then subsequently, it's going to end up in your removal proceedings, which will result in your deportation.
What would you say is one myth about immigration that you wish would go away?
I think that hopelessness, that there's nothing that we can do. Unfortunately, immigration processes are taking very, very long, and they can be very anxiety causing, right? A lot of people don't necessarily want to go through them, but I think that's the best investment that you can make in yourself, to actually go get your case evaluated and see if there is something that we can do. I was actually having this conversation a couple of hours ago, and in most cases, 70% of the time that someone comes to see me about their immigration case, there's something that we can do, but this person didn't know, or they end up with the wrong professional, with the wrong person filling out their forms. So the best thing you can do, come and seek a professional that will give you the right and honest advice, because that's very important.
You know, I love how you mentioned that hiring and having the right professional guide you through this very important process, because to me, when it comes to stability, especially with the families out there and individuals that are, seeking a status in this country, having the right person next to them is crucial. So with that, I want to shift into something really, really focused here, which is the connection part. What situation should people not wait when it comes to immigration?
What situation they shouldn't wait? Well, I think preparation, right? If you are in this country and you're undocumented, having a plan in place. What can I do if something happens to me? What if I were to be detained? What am I going to do with my children? What am I going to do with my financial assets? Who's going to take care of hiring an attorney, paying my bills? If I were to be removed, what's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to my kids? Those are things that I feel that we need to prepare. And oftentimes, once the person is detained, they can't do anything, right? Like the family's hands are tied, the person's hands are tied, and now it's just being reactive.
Now, again, in the whole connection part of it, why did you get into immigration law? There's a lot of and plenty other, arms of law, but immigration, why immigration?
Well, I have a very interesting story, and I always joke around with people and say, hey, if I ever had a TED Talk, I would call it ni de aquí ni de allá, no? Like La India Maria. I'm originally from Puerto Peñasco, Sonora, and I grew up with my maternal grandparents. I'm an immigrant myself. My mom came to this country when I was a year old. Obviously seeking a better life. And I would go years at a time without seeing my mother. And like a lot of families, right, there are long periods of separation. My mom at some point decided to bring me to this country. And I came in with the visa, but I was here undocumented. I would have been what was considered a dreamer at some point. And during that process, I lived here for several years. And when I was 13 years old, I was actually removed from the country. I was the only person. We were a mixed status family. My mom was a lawful permanent resident waiting to fix my status. My brother was born here, and I was undocumented. So I was separated from my mom. I was separated from my brother. I was sent back to Mexico. And that was a very traumatic experience. But I tell people that with anything in life, right, you decide how you're going to react to that. And I made it, I allowed that to fuel me, to motivate me, to make me passionate about something. And I feel very blessed because it allows you to see how lucky you are to be in this country, how lucky you are to have the family that you have, the experiences to grow, and to really be binational and really have no nationality in a lot of ways, right? Because I grew up here during the Arpaio era, during those times when it wasn't so popular to be Latino. And then you go to Mexico and your Spanish is not that great, so people don't really see you as Mexican. So you never really figure out where you fit in. But that also has allowed me to fit in anywhere, right? Because you have to adjust. You become a chameleon. and you learn to appreciate the culture in Mexico, you learn to appreciate the culture here, you learn to appreciate the opportunities. You'll always love who you are. But the opportunity to having been able to come back when I was 17, I went to high school here. And again, Arpaio was at his peak. And that really motivated me to get involved in politics. That's how I was very young when I got involved in politics. I was 17 years old. And I started doing a lot of community work with the immigrant community. I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I always, my grandparents who raised me always said, hey, ahí viene la abogada, no le alegues, don't argue with the attorney. So I knew I was going to be an attorney. I just didn't know what type of attorney. And obviously having gone through this experience really pushed me in that direction and fueled me to do something that I was passionate about, something that I could feel, right? And having gone through that and seen other people, it really gave me purpose. And sometimes I feel we lose that purpose, right? Especially now, especially nowadays, like it's hard. It's hard to keep that purpose. But I've been very fortunate. I've come a long way. I've taken advantage of a lot of opportunities. I had the advantage to be educated here, que me becaran, to have scholarships, to do very well. And now I have the power to help out others, even though sometimes I too feel impotent because of how quickly things are changing, how this administration is using the law and bending it against people. How we see branches of government bending to his will and not protecting the rights of people. So as an attorney, that breaks my heart. But I feel that it really reaffirms my mission. And I just have to remind myself of that.
You see, I get emotional because this is why, for me, specifically me, it's important that the community starts to learn some of the people that are leading with their heart, that are passionate about what they do, and they do it with not only from the level like, okay, I'm an attorney, I'm experienced, but I also went through that. I understand the pain sometimes that we feel when we navigating the uncertainty, and I love that you're leading from that perspective. I know that you're also very much involved in other organizations and putting the name of the Latino community in front. Tell them a little bit about that. Ayensa, I know that you run at some point also for a position, and I was so proud of you, girl. So proud of you.
Well, again, like I said, I've been very fortunate to do a lot of things. I had the opportunity to run for office a couple of years ago. The only first Latina to run in that district. It's a predominantly white district, but it's also shifting like every area of Phoenix and Arizona and really the country, right? Where we're slowly making our way in and making our impact. And leaving our legacy, even if I didn't win. I feel that it was a really great experience. I got a lot of support from people, including yourself, and I got to make a lot of friends to see what's really impacting the community. We did, thankfully, we did very well. Our fundraising was excellent. But sometimes politics are what they are, right? And it was in my time, and in many ways, I'm kind of thankful that it didn't happen, because then Trump got elected. I'm like, what am I going to do, right? Like, yes. I'm going, muchas veces Dios, right? Like, God is like, no, girl, come back, right? Like, that's not the way. That's not your purpose, and this is not your time, right? Like, there's going to be a bigger fight, and you need to be a part of that. This isn't where you're supposed to be. So that's in retrospect, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the experience, but I'm thankful for the redirection of my life. I also have the opportunity to serve on the Council for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Governor Hobbs appointed me to the Arizona-Mexico Commission, so we do a lot of missions to Mexico, a lot of trade missions to Mexico. How do we continue to strengthen and build those relationships with our neighboring country? And really our biggest economic investor and trading partner, right? the culture, right? Like that exchange of culture. We love, like Cinco de Mayo, just passed, right? Like we love partaking in all of that. And I think building on that is extremely important. Just because we have an administration that's not friendly to Latinos doesn't mean the rest of the country and the rest of us don't love and really embrace that. Obviously, I've served on the Children's Action Alliance, and that we advocate for kids, for education, make sure that we have funding for education, that we have funding for grandparents that take care of their kids that are going through the foster system, not only when they're minors, but when they're transitioning out, right? Because a lot of those kids end up being actually homeless. So how do we help them really hit the ground running once they age out of that system? And I've also served on the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I have served on the Boys and Girls Club. And those have all been really great experiences, especially oftentimes being the only Latina serving on those boards.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And you see, this is what Heritage Connections is all about. It's about people learning not only about organizations, but individuals that are creating an impact like yourself. I know that you have been a leader that leads with love and passion, that is actually putting her mouth and money and energy where her love is. And I appreciate you for that. But now we're going to shift gear. We went from serious to, hey, let's get to know Ayensa, but we're going to go into the fun questions. I call these questions the Candela questions. So we are about to have fun.
I don't know how I feel about this.
No, the answers are going to be fun answers. Don't overthink them. They're going to be great. I know you're going to do great. So okay. I'm going to ask you, early morning or late night?
Late nights.
Okay. One thing successful people do differently.
Not give up.
A boundary you had to learn the hard way.
Say no.
Health or wealth first?
Health.
What are you building next?
Myself.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I was earlier on, I was telling my production team, I was like, I think I know which answer she's going to give when it comes to wealth.
Did you get them all right?
No. I love it. I love it. And you see, and this is what I love about you. You're very authentic. You're very passionate. And I know that you do a lot of work out there in the community that sometimes people don't see. I know you have put together workshops to tell people about immigration. And that's why I think it's important that people start connecting with you. I know we're going to be sharing all her social media outlets down here. So I want the community to connect with our friend Ayensa today. Because not only she is a powerful woman, but I mean, to me, you embody leadership. So thank you so much for coming in and connecting with our community. Now, if you had one thing that you wanted to leave with the audience with, what would that be?
Never lose hope. Believe in yourself. Y a seguir la lucha.
Thank you. Thank you for those words. And if you have been listening all the way to this point, you know that this is a sign for you to connect. Not only to connect with a great attorney, but also to connect with our community of Heritage Connections. Follow us on social media, like and support these community leaders by, again, sharing it on your own channels. So for the time being, the time is over. But don't forget to check in next week in another episode of Heritage Connection. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.